How's it guys, Munash here, and today we have some Act 6 Crossbones gameplay. A video that I wanted to make a couple of days ago, but I've just been having a bit of a busy work week and really just didn't have much time to actually play with the champ, let alone make videos on him, but now I have gotten around to doing that. So I just want to shed some light on the champ, talk about his strengths and weaknesses, why I like him, and how I use him. So I have a couple of Act 6 fights for the showcase, and of course I'm not going to be using any synergies. I think I had a synergy for one fight, but it wasn't really needed, but at least you can see the difference that it makes. So the first thing is, to have a good time while using Crossbones, you ideally want to be fighting against hero champs, since that gives him the contempt bonus, which includes a number of benefits or additions to his abilities. And the main one for me is getting an additional 2 fury buffs whenever you trigger the special one, which I believe is the most effective way to ramp up his damage, build up those fury buffs in terms of which special attack to use, because the special 3 takes a lot longer to get to, and even though it does give you a very long precision, his crit rate only goes up by 700 as a maxed 5-star. His base crit rate is 287, so total that's 987 crit rating, which is just 21 higher than the base crit rate of a rank 3 Nick Fury. So he will be critting much more, but not enough to make it better than using the special one, since that'll give you a total of 3 fury buffs with contempt. Maybe if you're not fighting villains or don't have contempt, that's when the special 3 will be a bit more useful for building the fury buffs. Otherwise, special 1 is the way to go. So probably the biggest thing they did for Crossbones is that now you can pause and refresh the fury buffs. So when you enter Overrun, you refresh all active fury buffs, and the heavy attack will allow you to pause them. It does say when you punish a special or intercept with the heavy attack, it won't cost any fury buffs, but otherwise it'll cost 1 fury buff to pause the rest of them. And I'm not sure that's working as intended, because right now it does seem quite inconsistent. Sometimes I'll punish with the heavy and it gets consumed, other times I won't even punish and it won't get consumed. So unless it's a visual bug, I'm not sure what's going on there. But still, even when it does get consumed, it's still usually worth it if you have a couple of fury buffs just to maintain them. So he is quite reliant on the heavy attack, because you will need to pause them a few times before you can refresh again. Because Overrun lasts for 12 seconds and has an 8-second cooldown, and the heavy attack will pause all furies for 5 seconds. So usually after entering Overrun, I like to throw a heavy attack soon after that, because I'll get 3 new furies that need to be paused. Then after the heavy attack knockdown with Crossbones, I like to rush in and do a standing intercept, and then throw a special 1 soon after that, since you have increased combat power rate when you're in Overrun, and I'll often do shortened combos because of that. Also, I don't want to spend too much time before I throw the next heavy attack, just to make sure I don't lose a bunch of furies, so I'll basically keep doing that until I can activate Overrun again, while managing the opponent's power by baiting special attacks, and then I'll just repeat that cycle. The other thing about Crossbones is he generally does better against champs with easy to punish special attacks, especially if it can be heavy punished, and also special animations that are short in length, so you don't have to spend too much time before you can throw that next heavy attack. That's why he works really well against Abyss Thing, because he's a hero and both special attacks can be heavy punished quite easily, as long as he's playing fairly aggressively. So now we're up against Blade with the defensive node, so now you're going to see how Crossbones does against champs who aren't very aggressive. So as you can see, even though Blade is a hero, Crossbones is not having the best time against him, just because that special attack, or actually both of those special attacks, can't really be heavy punished. And he spends a lot of time holding blocks, so I can't really throw in those heavy attacks safely. Had to be a little bit cheeky with that, but still not the worst fight, it just took a little bit longer than the others. So now we're gonna fight Magic with 100% Energize, a fight that can be quite annoying if you don't have a good magic counter for it. And Crossbones is now a very good magic counter just because of how potent his ability accuracy reduction is. You can pretty much shut it down at the beginning of the fight by entering Overrun. Magic is a hero, so you get minus 25 defensive ability accuracy reduction for each fury buff, which should be enough to bypass the first one because it's not a 100% chance to trigger, and it becomes quite easy to maintain at least 4 fury buffs. So one thing Crossbones is extremely good at now is defensive ability accuracy reduction, since there is no limit to how many of those fury buffs you can stack, or at least I don't think there is. There might just be a hidden limit like with Human Torch and the Smolders, but I haven't reached that limit yet, and the most I've stacked is 72, which was against Abyss Thing. So let me just get my calculator out. 72 times 25 is, okay, 1800 defensive ability accuracy reduction at that stage. That is not something that you need anywhere in the game, but just the fact that he can lower ability accuracy beyond 100% and very quickly as well makes him very good at that. Because you do get champs or nodes that increase the ability accuracy reduction beyond 100%, like Sorcerer, Modok, Howard the Duck, a few others, and of course nodes like enhanced abilities or the best defense. So yeah, that shouldn't be a problem for Crossbones. To put it in perspective, a max Sig Archangel would need 45 neurotoxins to match that ability accuracy reduction. So now we have a Void with unblockable Finale. Void is a villain, so Crossbones will not be having the best time against him. He won't have any of those contempt bonuses, so the ramp up will be a little bit slower in this fight. Which is fine, I mean he's still a very good Void counter, just because of his Sig ability allowing him to shrug off debuffs. So he has a 40 to 90% chance to purify any debuff based on the Sig level. So at Sig 200 it's 90%. Mine is only Sig 100, I haven't put any stones in him, but still that gives a 69% chance, which is pretty decent. As you can see, it hasn't actually triggered yet. It also worked against Iceman's Cold Snap, which was the second fight on this path, but after the first one I did try to just comply with Void by staggering my combos, making sure I can remove it the old-fashioned way, and just keep on trying to maintain those Furies. So I did have them fall off once where I tried to punish his special attack, his special 2 with the heavy attack, and I was no way close to hitting him, so I went from 11 Furies to 4. What I could have done there is hold block a bit longer before the special 2, just so he comes into me and then I can re-parry and then drop a heavy attack, and then bait the special 2. But not a big deal, as you can see, still a very comfortable fight with Crossbones, and I was able to completely bypass unblockable Finale, which makes the fight a bit easier to finish off. So next up we have a Sissy Hulk with Mighty Charge 2. So whenever he dashes at you, he will purify all debuffs and be stun immune and unstoppable until the dash ends. So he is a hero, but it's a slightly more trickier fight with Crossbones since he does have that Mighty Charge. You will need to reparry a bit more in this fight, but at least you can still parry stun him, so it's not that bad. If he was just straight up stun immune or debuff immune, it would be a bit more difficult, and that is one of Crossbones' weaknesses, stun immunity or a strong tenacity, especially if the opponent doesn't have easy to heavy punish special attacks. In those scenarios you might need to bait the heavy attack and punish that a bit more, if it can be punished, and that also means more block damage. So I mentioned earlier that the special 1 is pretty good for building Furies, especially against hero champs, but it's also important to know that you do kind of need to throw it very quickly, just so you don't spend too much time in between heavy attacks. So I try to throw it almost as soon as I can. When I get that bar of power, I know that yeah, it's special 1 time. Unless of course I have Furies about to fall off, then I do need to refresh them with the overrun, or just throw a heavy attack to pause them before I can carry on. So this is the part where I made a slight mistake by hitting him while he had Smash active, so he just went unstoppable and then comboed me, and I took an annoying amount of damage here, and I was just 1 combo away from finishing the fight. So I finished him by dropping a 5k medium and then a 3k light attack through his block. And that's a lot of damage to be doing through someone's block, considering that he doesn't actually crit, so it's not like Corvus or Aegon. During overrun, Crossbones also ignores any positive physical resistance that the opponent has. So now we have one more fight on this path, the last fight, which is going to be Corvus Glaive with Tank Buster. So he's going to have a slight increase in his combat power rate, which can be beneficial in this fight because the special 2 is the one I want to bait, since that's the one I can heavy punish quite easily. And this is the one fight where a synergy is at play. So I brought Hitmonkey because Crossbones does have a synergy with him, Yondu, Nebula or Platinum Pool, which will increase the contempt bonus to include all non-villain champs. And Corvus is a non-villain champ, according to Gabam apparently. So Crossbones is going to have a very good time in this fight. This actually will be one of the quickest fights in this video. Took about 45 seconds, so not bad. So then after that I took him into Act 6 Chapter 4, because I wanted to try him out against champs with slightly larger health pools. I guess these are more standard in-game type of health pools nowadays. But yeah, Gwenpool is a hero champ, so this should be a pretty good fight for Crossbones. Shouldn't take more than a minute. And I know I am fighting a lot of heroes in this video, and it's not even like I'm trying to, it's just how it ended up happening since most of the champs in this game are actually heroes. If you use the Aunt May filter, you'll see that 119 champs out of 198 are indeed heroes. So that's a lot of relatively favorable matchups, although it won't work very well against every champ who's a hero, because some of them will have some animations or abilities that will hurt his effectiveness overall. For example, Iron Man Infinity War has special attacks that are very difficult to punish, especially the special 2. I think that one is impossible, and I know it's impossible to heavy punish both of the special attacks, and he does have some non-contact attacks, so even after you dex the special attack, it can still take a bit of time to parry before you can throw a heavy attack, or punish his heavy attack. That's where you might need a synergy to extend his Fury duration to play him a bit more effectively. So the last fight's gonna be this Proxima Midnight, still on the same path as the Gwenpool. And like Corvus, Proxima isn't a villain, according to Kabam, and I don't have the Hitmonkey synergy this time. So this fight will take a little bit longer than Gwenpool, but still not that bad. The main difference here is I use the special 3, where I basically pushed myself to too much power, so I got to 2 bars of power, and I just didn't feel like using the special 2. So this isn't exactly a great matchup for Crossbones, but it's still far from a bad one. He still works pretty well for it without synergies, as long as you can maintain those Furies. Just gotta keep an eye on those icons, make sure you're entering Overrun as frequently as you can, and regularly throwing some heavy attacks to pause the Furies. So yeah, that's pretty much it, and now for my overall thoughts on Crossbones. I think they've done a pretty banging job on this buff. The core of the champ is still pretty much the same. They kept all his utility and just enhanced it to make him a lot more viable or practical for the modern game. Just the fact that he can now pause and refresh his Furies is huge, because as you can see, now he has some extremely high damage potential and ridiculously potent defensive ability accuracy reduction. The Sig ability is also quite nice, a very good chance to purify debuffs, especially at a much higher Sig level. But I wouldn't say it's essential. I mean, I was able to do almost every fight in this video without actually using it. In fact, it was just the Iceman fight where I sort of needed it. So I probably will be taking my 5-star to rank 5 on the live server. I just don't have the luxury right now because I'm still a bit low on tier 2 alpha and even tier 5 basic, which is a bit weird. But yeah, I just don't need him for anything in particular right now, so I'm just saving resources for more important stuff. So that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you guys found it interesting. If you did, feel free to like, share and all that stuff, I'd really appreciate that. But as always, thank you for watching, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon.